Welcome. So just like the previous days, we will be going through our training again on how to use Microsoft Excel as data analyst. And then today events, we'll be looking at how to work with dashboards and then or how to create dashboards. That's what we'll be looking at today. Today we may not have, I'll be sending some PowerPoint slides, but that'll be later. We'll just go straight into Microsoft Excel and start work. Good. There'll be some couple of things we need to do. We need to start from data cleaning. We need to do data cleaning. When we finish that, we need to do a few more things, then create some dashboards, some Excels, then visualizations, and then see how to arrange them and then make them interactive with each other. So that's what we'll be looking at today. And then hopefully by the time we finish, we'll be able to create our own dashboards. Yeah, if you have your data, you can equally join me. I'll still be using, you can be using the same data I'll be using whilst we work. You follow along what we'll be doing. So it is possible that you can follow along with your data as we work through Excel. Yeah. All right, you are welcome. I'll be sharing my screen right away. We won't be using this. We'll be using something different, but we're not going to be using this. We'll be using something different. I was just practicing with this, but we'll be using something different. So to start again, I would like us to start with the data we used the last time, the sales analysis data I sent to you the last time. We will be using that data again today to see how we can actually create some visualizations using that data. I already have this data prepared, already cleaned, but I think it will be appropriate if we go back to that data so that those who have forgotten a few steps would be able to remember what they should do at each stage. And then that would be nice going through that journey again. I'm going back to where I will import my data. And then from there, we'll be going back to Power Query, doing some data cleaning there. And then when we finish, we'll be bringing back the data again into our Excel so that we'll be able to work or create some visualizations with it. Okay, so remember, for us to import data into our Power Query, we'll use our data tab and then use our data tab to import our data. Now, in a case where you already have imported your data into Excel and you want to maybe from there take it to Power Query, it is equally possible. Maybe I'll use that today so that we equally say that it is possible if already you've opened your data as normal Excel file, you can still convert it to Power Query and still work with it. So maybe that's what I'm going to use today. And then we use that method instead of using get data. I'm sure by now we're already used to getting data or importing data from different sources into our Excel, but let's see how that one equally goes. So with that, I hope you can see my screen. If you can, then that's great. If you can't, please just prompt me or alert me that you can't see the screen so that I'll be able to reshare my screen again. All right, so I go to open, and then from open, of course, I have to browse to where my data is located. Same thing with you. If you click on open, then you need to browse to locate where your data is. And at this point, my data is located on my download option. So I click on my downloads. And then when I click on my downloads, I'm going to scroll down to where my data is. And then this is my data, sales _analysis _new. And then I'm clicking open. And so we are used to this particular way of opening data. Yeah, So we are used to opening data this way. And then I'm sure it's not something new for us. Yeah, so I've opened my data this way. And then the point now is, or the question now is, I want to take this data to Power Query. How do I take it to Power Query so that I'll be able to do my normal cleaning, and then I'll be able to remove some unnecessary things. Some of the things we need to remove probably would include these colors. You see, there are some colors that they've used from some formatting to format the data. And so they have some color here, some text have equally be bolded. Probably we don't need those things. And then a few other things that may be added to the data. So now for us to do that, we'll click on Data tab. So click on Data tab. When you click on Data tab, what you do is, instead of going to get data or from Excel or from this, you say from table range. So we are going to pick it from this table. So this table range. So click from table range, from table or range. And perhaps it's going to help us pick the data to Power Query. Waiting for my Excel to load. Seems I'm having some slides thing this morning. All right. So yeah, so I say, okay. Great. So now it has converted. When I said from table, what actually happened is it allowed me create a table with my data, the data I actually have. Not this. This is allowing me to create a fresh table. Discard this. People are still coming around. I'm still adding people. Existing connections. Okay, I think that feature has been taken away. It was actually an old Excel I used in practicing that. That feature seems to have been taken away because what I have here is different. All right, but since I've already opened my Excel here, I use recent sources. Yeah, I use recent sources. From table, the one I was using, I intended using, was actually supposed to pick this and convert it, but that is rather going to do something different. It's rather going to open a table and allow me to create my table myself. And that is not what I'm trying to do. So let me connect from this. So I'm using recent sources. So let me pick this. That's exactly what I have there. And then let me connect to it. All right, so my data is here, and then I'm picking the first one.
Sorry,
So
Joe.
yes,
I can't
please.
see where you are.
Okay, sure. All right, so please, can you see here now?
I see the sheet with different tables colored. Is that where you are working? Because I can't see your cursor.
Okay, the what you are seeing is it's where I have some color like
Yeah.
green, yellow color.
No, blue. The tab name is analysis. That's what you have on now, at least from my side.
Okay, please, another person, please. Who again?
Yes, the tab is still on analysis, and it looks like your Excel is loading.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So can you see this one now?
Yes.
So this is Super Store Corporation analysis. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Great.
perfect. Thank you.
All right. All right. So sorry about that. Thanks for prompting me. I'm grateful. All right. So so this is the data I want to use. And then so I want to convert it to Power Query. And what we need to do is come to our get data. So come to data tab, and then under our get data, I'm going to use recent sources. I click on recent sources. And then when I click on recent sources, it will open up for me to be able to select the data I need. So I'm just looking for the first one. And then I click on connects because I want it to connect to this particular data that I have opened. And when it connects, then I have the opportunity of selecting exactly the table I am interested on. And I want the first table, that is the table that has sales underscore data. Please, are you seeing what I'm doing?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All right. All right. Thank you. So now I'm going to transform my data. Great. So my data is loaded for me. And please do remember again, just like what I've told you before, that when you come into Power Query, you have a lot of flexibility to work. And then one of the flexibility you have is the ability to always retrace your steps back. So if you have taken any step and you're no longer sure of what you've done, then you can always come to applied steps and see what you have done. So you've done any change, you've taken any step within the Power Query, it will always be recorded for you here on our applied steps. Yeah, so now what you can do immediately you come into Power Query, there are a few things you can do. One of the things you can do is to check if the column heads, what it is using as a head is exactly what you intend to use as a heading of your data. If it is not, then you have to ensure that the head of the data is what it is using. And how do you do it? So for example, currently I know I'm having some empty rows, 2 empty rows that are above before where my data actually started. So I need to remove those ones. And what I will do is I click on any of them, either the first or the second one. Any of them, I can click on any of them, either the second one or the first one. Then I go to my home tab and then come to my rows, reduce rows. And so when I click on reduce rows, I have the option of removing top rows, removing bottom rows, removing alternate rows, removing duplicates, removing blank rows, removing errors. So it depends on what you want to remove, then you can actually remove them. So let's say, for example, for a start, I just brought in this data. So now seeing the first thing I need to do is remove the top rows because that's not what I should be using. So I click on remove top rows. And when it loads, it's going to ask me one simple question. What is the number of rows I want to remove? In a case where I have more than one, then I have to specify how many they are. For example, here I have two. So I have to type in 2 inside my input box. And then when I type 2 inside my input box, then I can click on OK. If I have 3, 4, 5, then I have to enter exactly how many number of rows I want to remove. All right. Of course, the ones you are removing should be the empty rows. Yeah. Okay. So when I remove it, then if I come back again to my applied steps, you see that I have removed top rows. It has been added for me there. So if I want to go back again or track my step back, I can just close it. There's a button there, cancel button there. If I just cancel it, then it takes me back again. You see the empty rows has been added back for me again. So I go there again and then I say remove the top rows. And then when it comes, I say 2, then 2 of them there, and then I say remove. Now it has removed. And then please do note as well, there's no undo here. That like when I close this, I can't use undo to bring it back. No, I have to perform the action again. So the only undo I have is on my steps. I can always go back. But when I close a step from here, I don't have undo to bring it back again. I have to do it again before it can come back. Yeah, so please do take note of that. Now, I have done the first thing, and then I can see now the first role is region, country, item type, sales channels, order priority, and then in that order. And then the first row or the heading columns are column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, 5, in that order as we're going. And then the next question I have to ask myself is, what is the heading, the column heads? What I'm using, is that exactly what I should use as the head of the columns? If that is not what I should use, then I come back again. The same home, I can do it under the home tab. I can do it under transform. So under home tab, you have a group called transform. Please remember, if I'm too fast and you are struggling to hear me, please do call my attention so that I'll be able to reduce my speed. If I'm too slow and you want me to be faster, you can equally let me know so that I can increase my speed. Yeah, so please do prompt me, whichever one you feel is not favoring you, so that I'll be able to know how to adjust. Great. So now under my home tab, I have a group called transform. And then under transform, I have a tab called use first rule as headers. So I have a button there, an arrow tab. So I click on that arrow. When I click on that arrow, I have two options. The first option is use first rule as headers. You see, this is first rule as headers. The first rule is region, country, item type. That is the first rule. And it is asking me, use it as headers. Now, the next one is saying, use headers as first rule. The headers are column 1, column 2, column 3, in that order. So the question now is, what exactly do I want to do? What I want to do is, I want to use the first rule as headers. All right, that's how my data should be formatted. So I choose that option, use first rule as headers. Immediately I do it. If I check my applied steps again, you see that step has been added. All right, so you say promoted headers. And then the promoted headers, if you watch there now, you see that I now have regions, country, item type, and then the rest of them as the headers of my work. Great. Now, when I do that, the next thing I probably have to do is to look down through my data and see if I have some empty places I need to fill. And as I scroll down, I've realized that on row number 15, I have an empty row. So let me scroll through and see if it is all throughout empty. And as I scroll through, I've realized that it is empty all through. So there's no place where I have a data inside that place. So the best option for me there would be to remove it. And it is possible too that I have other places where such thing has repeated. So for me to be on a safer side, instead of removing one and then eventually later on realizing that there are still other ones, what I need to do is I'll select my data. Of course, any column can do, whether one column or two columns, you don't have problem. You can select anyone and then come to home tab again. Click on your home tab and come to rows, reduce rows again. And then within that place, you click on remove rows. And on this point, we're going to say remove blank rows. So once you remove, get rid of all the blank rows within our data. And then I say remove blank rows. And when I do that, if I check on my data again, I'll realize that on row number 15, I now have data because the empty rows have been removed. And that step has equally been added for me on my applied steps. So this is how we keep working on the data, ensuring that things that should be there are there and things that shouldn't be there are removed. Another thing again we are going to notice is, of course, if you look at the data very well, you're going to realize that some of the data are not properly formatted. For example, if you scroll through the data, you're going to see that Sub-Saharan Africa, like I told you the first day we use the data, wasn't properly formatted. Here, the first instance of Sub-Saharan Africa is one line on one line. The second instance is 2 lines. You have line 9, and then on row 9, you have Sub-Saharan, and then an enter key has been pressed before the typed Africa. I think if you scroll down again, you're going to see a third instance, and then of Sub-Saharan Africa. So we need to ensure that there is consistency in our data. All right, we're going to remove the extra spaces we have in our data. We're going to remove anything that shouldn't be part of the data, and then we're going to only ensure that we have consistency in terms of if you're going to use capital letters all through for our data, we should be consistent. If we want to use small letters all through, lower cases, we should be consistent. If we want to use sentence case, we should be consistent in our data. So that's what the next thing we're going to do. All right. So in doing that too, what I normally do is click on the first column and select all your text. All right, all your text data types. So I select all of them so that it will be easy for me to work on all of them once. I can actually be doing them one column at a time, but to save my time, I hold down my shift key and then click the last column that contains text. And then when I do that, then I have all of them selected. Then I can go back now and start formatting them. And if I want to format them, where I need to go is I need to go to transform. And then when I click on transform, then I come to text to column group, text to column group. And then I open that place and then I see the options of what I can do there. So let me say the first thing I need to do is capitalize each word. So that when I capitalize each word, and then I realize that on row number 1, the chart has now been written properly. And on row number 7, lowers has equally been written properly, not small letters any longer or lower cases, but then sentence case. And then the first one is no longer uppercase, but equally sentence case. So that's the first thing I've done. Then the next thing I need to do is to trim it. So I trim. Now, when I trim, you realize that my chart, the space, when they pressed enter before typing chart, that space has been removed. The space they pressed, they equally added before typing Lavita, has equally been removed. And so that has been dealt with. But the instance of Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, has not been resolved. So I need to use clean to clean it. And then when I use clean, that is going to resolve that. And then if you look now, you see that on line row number 6, row number 1, row number 6, row number 9 are all now the same thing. So that means we now have one instance of every data we have, because now we have all of them on the same page. Good. Now that is for that. Now the next thing I need to check is my data type, the data type of the data of the columns I am using. So to do that,
excuse
yes,
me,
please.
Before you move to data type, just on row 6, South Africa, there's a big space between South and Africa. How do you get rid of it? Because Trim did not get rid of this space.
Yeah, Trim did not get rid of the space there. Great. All right. So now let's look at that case, South Africa, and then let's see if there's yeah, so to get rid of that, I think we're going to it means you're going to use what is his name? We're going to use the other data. So we're going to create, let's say we are going to use what is his name? So we'll go to home. We're going to create another column. We're going to split. So we split, when we split that data, then probably we're going to get, let's use split and see if we're going to get a result. When we finish splits, we're going to merge them again. So let's see if I'm going to split columns, and then I want to say, but I can't split this data by, so look at this. If you want to split the data by delimiter, so delimiter means where you have maybe a tab or space or whatever thing delimiter I want to use to split it, that is for that. If you want to split it based on number of characters, that's actually out of the track now, because here we have more characters than we have here, and they're not consistent. So we can't use number of characters to split them. Now positions, if you want to split them based on their positions, okay, so this is the first position, maybe, but then I'm not too sure it's going to do that. All right, then we'll have to do this. Okay, let's say if we're going to split it, let's try and see using to non-digits. digits to non-digits, but this is not digits. Okay, let's try that and see what's going to happen. And then trying to do that, sure. So because it's not digits, it's going to do this. So it's not going to be that. So I'm going to remove this because this is not digit, this is text. All right, so I'm trying to do another thing to see how I want to deal with that. Positions, okay, let's see if position is going to do that for us. And then, okay, let's see positions, sure. All right, so have 2, 4, 5, 10. So let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you do that, Pakistan is going to be divided again. Okay. And then which other one? This one too are not the same. All right. So it's not going to be possible. And then let me see another one. Lowercase, no. Trying to see number of characters. It's not going to be possible because it's not have the same number of characters. Trying to see delimiter. Okay, if delimiter is going to work. Splits. Left delimiter space. Okay. All right. Let's use delimiter and see if it's going to split for us. If it's going to do it for us, but it's going to actually split the whole thing. But let me see if it's going to do it now, because I realized that what I've seen what you're making reference to. Yeah, there's too many space there. All right, so let's say the delimiter we are using is space. Yeah, space, and then I want to split the width with space, but we're going to have a lot of this. Yeah, I know it's going to be this way. So have this, and then I'm interested on this place. Yeah, so all these ones are going to be empty. And then South Africa is here. And then in that column, looking through that column, is only data in that column. All right, there's only data in that column. Great. Okay, so since that is the only data in that column, I want to see because it's only data in that column, how do I remove the NAS on that column? So removing the NAS. Okay. So I think that is going to, where is, no. All right. Transform data. And then, okay. Maybe we should use this. All right. Let's try it with this. So I'm taking my step back again. So where the whole data is joined again. And then I want to see if we use transform, and then I'm under test columns. So I want to see if extracts is going to do it for us. First characters range text before delimiter. Okay, so let's say we are going to extract text before delimiter, and then let's see how it's going to be. Text before delimiter, and then the delimiter I want to use is space. Space, we want to use space. Advanced. The delimiter is expecting number. Number of delimiters is skip 0. Okay. Is expecting some text, some numbers. Range text between delimiters, no. All right, please, I think I will look into that and then I'll let you know how to resolve this. Yeah, so that to be able to continue our classes. I'll look into that and then I'll get back to you on that. But I've always seen that there's a space between South Africa and they've actually had some spaces before that. Yeah, so now on the next thing I said we are going to look at is on the data types. And then the data types we are looking at regions. So when you pick regions, you check if it has the right data types. Of course, the data type should either be text. Of course, when you click on the data type, you can see it in two different places. If you're under transform, then under any column, you're going to see data type there. And then when you open the data type, you're going to see the data types you have there, whether it's decimal number, currency, whole numbers, percentage, date and time, dates, time, and all that text are equally there. So of course, for example, what we'll have here, region should be text. So, and then it is already text. So when it is ABC, we already know that is text. And then when it is not ABCD, maybe if it is, for example, when you get to ship dates, for the ship date is 1, 2, 3. And I think the last time I told you why it is 1, 2, 3. So we need to convert it to the normal dates. Since it is ship date, we need to convert it to the dates we are familiar with. Then if you come to unit sold to is equally 1, 2, 3. And of course, when you click on that, you see that the data type there is numbers. So when you check on the data type under any column, under transform, any column, you see that data type there is whole numbers. That is what it has as data type. All right. So if it is another one that has decimals, let me see the one that has decimals, unit cost. If you take unit cost and check the data type, you see that the data type there is decimal number. So that is the data type there. And then in that order, until you get to the end of your data. So now to correct what we have under the ship, I think we already know what to do. We have to go to the data type and then change it from what it is to what we want it to be. So click on where you have the data type, which is the column called ship date. There are two things you can do. You can come here and then click on dates and it will convert it to dates. Or you can equally right click on that column and then you go to where you have a transform, change type. When you come to change type before transform, you have change type. From change type, you equally have access to changing them to any of the data type you want to change it to. So it's either you change it from here or you come to this place and then change the data type. So that is for that. And then of course, for this, I think we've worked on this over a couple of times. You have to split this based on the delimiter. So since this is digits, so we can use digits to non-digits to split them. That'll be easier for us. And then of course you come to splits and then you're going to see by digits to non-digits, and then it's going to split the first side. And then when you come to the second section, since it's non-digits to digits again, you can still say from non-digits to digits, and then it is going to split it for us. Then the ones that we don't need now, we can quickly remove it. Yeah, so I think that is the easiest way. This seems not to have done. From non-digits to digits, non-digits to digits. So, okay. And then we remove this because we don't need this. All right. Then, of course, we have to rename this. This should be order dates and then clear the rest. And then the other one is going to be, so I double click on it in order to rename it. So this should be order ID. Order ID. So order ID, and then I click enter to accept it. Then I have to change this to dates because currently it is on text, and then I have to change it to dates. And then in changing it to dates, just like what we did the first time, we have to convert this to, let's convert it to numbers and then maybe convert it now to dates and see if it's going to be faster for us this time. So if you want to add step, this is add new step. If you want to replace the current step we are currently on, then you can use replace this and then it's going to do it. So this is an error. That means it didn't do it for us. All right, so change this to numbers. Oh, no, not decimal, please. Whole numbers. All right, whole numbers, and then I'm changing it to dates to replace this. Still giving some errors. I think sometimes it takes some time to dictate the data type we are working with. Okay, so change this to numbers too, but this doesn't really have any effects on it. So change this to dates and stop. All right, so I've changed it to dates. And then the next thing when we've changed this to dates could be like what I told you last time. We can try to use some measures to calculate the difference between the days it takes for our order to arrive. We can look at that differences and then look at the difference between the ship dates and then the order dates. And then maybe that is going to help us understand certain things about our data. So to do that, what we need to do is we'll go to custom columns or add columns. Click on add column. And then from adding a column, you can create your own column that is called custom column. And then when you click on create custom column, you can add, give it a name. Let's say duration. Durations. And then from here, we're going to use the function duration dot days. So use duration dot days. And then with duration dot days, we'll use order dates and then subtract it from our ship dates. So when we subtract it from our ship dates, I think there's an error here. Durations of dates, we'll have a order dates. Okay, yeah, I have extra opening brackets. All right, so yeah, I have negative values because I used order dates before the ship dates. So I should have used it the other way around. So let me do it again. So in case if you did the same thing, I have the same problem, then it means you have used the wrong dates. So you should use it the other way around. So durations, the days, and then we're picking ship dates, and then subtract it from ship dates from order dates. And then we say, okay. Great. So when you do that, then we can decide to bring this back again to where we want it to be. So I want it to be just before my ship dates. Yeah, so I've brought it back there, and then I have now my order dates. If I like to, I can pick this to the other ID, I can pick it a bit back maybe before the order priority. Good, so it's under before the order priority. So I have my order dates, then I have my ship dates, and then I have my durations in between them. Yeah, so after I've done this, if there are any other measure I still want to create, I can always create them there. Now, the next thing probably we may be doing is, let's say if I want to create some extra tables from this data, all right, I want to create some extra table. Is it possible? Yes, possible. What I need to do is I'll right click on this and then say duplicate this. So when I duplicate this, I'll give this a different name. So let's say I want to give this a name called products. So I will say rename and I say products. Now I have a product table, but my product table and my sales data are still the same thing. So what do I need to do? I need to select the columns that I want to be part of my products table. All right, so let's say if I want to do that, then I can go and say, all right, I want certain things to be parts and I want some not to be parts. Maybe I need products, so I'll need the product itself, and then there probably the unit costs, and then their sales costs. Maybe that's the things I need to add to it. So first thing I need to do is to select the item types, because that is where I have my products. The item types, there are my products. So when I select my item types, then I scroll down to where I want to select again. Now, what are the columns I want to be part of my product table? Now, that is first I've selected the item itself. Let me select the units sold, the unit price, and then, sorry, I'll use my shift key in place of my control key. So I should actually use my control key. So when I use my shift key, I'm going to select everything, but my control key will allow me to select one, maybe multiples, and not everything in that row. So I'm selecting units price and then unit cost, because I want to see the unit cost of each product. I want to see the unit price of each product. Then, and I want to see each product as well. So maybe these are the few things I want to see under the products table. So when I finish selecting what I need, I can right click on the ones I have selected and say, remove other columns. That means the ones that I didn't select are other columns. I want to remove those ones. And then I'll be left with just these 3 columns. Now, when I do this, here I have a new table now called products. And I know that within my products table, I should just have one product at a time. So office supply should be one product. Beverages should be one product. Vegetables should be one product. So I should have them just one occurrence each time. All right. So let's say if I want to do that, so what I need to do is I select that column entirely, and then I go back to transform. And then on that, or I go back to home, please. I go to home and then come to reduce rows. And then there I'll say, I want to remove the duplicate, so that wherever I have duplicates of that same thing, it will be able to get rid of it. So when I do that, now I have this number of items. So these are my item types. So of course, if I want, I can change the headings. So if I want to change them, I can probably say maybe now products or product name, product underscore name. That's what I want you to answer. But please, when you give it a new name here, then it means you have to go back to your sales data and equally rename it there, so that when you're going to link them, it will not be difficult for it to identify each other on when you're going to establish a relationship. Now, next thing I could equally want to do here is to add some index, some way of counting, because at the moment I can't count. But if I want to add a counting method, then I'll go to add columns. And when I come to add columns, there's under general, I have index columns. So index columns, I open it and I have from where do I want to start counting from? If I want to start counting from 0, then I select 0. If I want to start counting from 1, I select 1. So if I select 1, then it starts counting from 1 for me. So I can bring this at the edge and then say products index. Products underscore index. Sorry. Product underscore index. Great. So I have product index now. I have the name, I have the unit price, and then I have the unit cost. So when I finish, if I want to create another one again, it is possible. I just have to go back to my data again. And when I come there, I right click again and I say duplicate. Now, when I duplicate, maybe this time I want to create regions, or I want to create order. All right. Maybe I want to create orders table, and then to see what are the orders that have been placed over a time. I can look at them, look at it like that. So depending on what I want to create, I can always create them with this particular method. So that is how we can create what we know as transactional data. That is what we can create. Sorry, the one we have here, this table called sales data, is what is called transactional data. And the ones we are creating from it is what we call dimensional data. So the dimensional data is dependent on the transactional data, in that when you come to every instance of the transactional data will always occur once on the dimensional data. So anything you have on your dimensional data, for example, if I have office supply, it should only occur once in my dimensional data. But when I come inside my transactional data, I can have multiple occurrence of it, because that is my sales analysis. That is where I do my transactions every day. Yeah, so that is the difference between transactional data and dimensional data. So if it is in a normal database, you say that when you have different database, you have a database for users, you have the database for products, you have database for this, you have a table for that, different tables. But after all those different tables, you have a general table where you do your transactions. So let's say if it is a business you have developed, maybe we are using some softwares to manage our business. You say that our day-to-day transaction or running of the organization or the company will have a place we use in managing the day-to-day activities of the organization. So that place that we use in managing everything about the organization, where we can collect multiple data of an instance, is what we call transactional data. But when you want to drill down and look at each item, each product, each table on the database, you are going to realize that when you pick each table on inside the database, you're going to have one occurrence of almost every data inside them. So there won't be repetition. So those smaller tables that are combined to generate the bigger table is what we call dimensional data. And the bigger table that every other table feeds to is what we call transactional table. All right. Now, so if we create, assuming we have a lot of transactional tables here, and then when we finish creating the whole transactional table, there's a need for us to link them together. How do we do it? That leads us to what we did last time on that relationship. So let's say I'm equally creating something else here. So let's say this is, I'm going to use it to do, let me say location. Maybe I want to use it for location. And then under my locations, I want to leave regions, country, should be there. I want to equally have countries there. And then maybe what else again should I have? What else again? All right, maybe just those two things. If that is what I need, I can equally right click and say remove the rest of them. And then with these two, I can still say I want it to give me a unique value. So remove all the duplicates under the regions. So it removes all my duplicates for me. And then I'm left with this. Now, can I still create another one? Let me create the last one. It's called orders, order. I want to create one called order. Orders. And then that's one too, I want to use my data here called, I have some data. I want to use channels. I want to use this. I want to use order ID. I want to use order priority. I want to use order dates. And perhaps I want to include my ship dates to it. And then maybe these are the things I want to use at the moment for that. And then when I finish, if you think there's any other columns, another column that you should add to it, please do feel free to add them. There's no problem with you adding more columns to it. All right, so when I finish with these two, then I'll bring since I already have order ID, I just have to ensure that my order ID, there's no duplicates there. And then just remove my duplicates on it, and then I should be fine. So then that is for this. So now when I finish, I have 1, 2, 3, now 3 tables linking to my bigger table. So when I finish everything, I feel like I need to do with data cleaning and then arranging my data the way it should be. The next thing I need to do is load my table back again to Excel. And so when I say close and load, it's going to save a couple of what I have done. And then when it finishes saving the whole thing, it's going to open it for me where I will need to use it to continue my work. Yeah, so wait for it to do that. Great. So what it has done. Okay, so now I have, if you watch my table now, if you can see my Excel, I have a couple of tabs now. I have a tab or a worksheet called orders. I have another one called locations. I have another one called products. All right, these are the tables I just created. So each table will be used to create a worksheet for me so that I'll be able to use it to work when I need to do that. Now, and then I have my main data, which is my sales data. And then my sales data now have sales data 1 and sales data 2, but I'm using sales data 2 because that's the one I just imported here now. And then that is where I have everything I've done is included. All right, please do remember again that if you're using one data, you have extracted data from a database or from any other source, and you're using it to work, it is always advisable to copy that data, duplicate it, get a copy, and then leave one copy so that in any case where you are missing the road or you've done something or you still want to make a reference to the previous data, you still have access to it. So please do ensure that you create a copy of your data before you start using it to work. It will help very well. All right, so I have now brought my data. I'm back here, and then my data is here for me. And the next thing I need to do is to come back to my query. So I imported my data, cleaned it, and after cleaning my data, it's brought me here instead of taking me to where okay, yeah, this is Power Query. This is not Power BI, sorry. I was rather mistaking this to Power BI. All right, so now when I am here, the next thing I'll try to do is now how to create relationship here. Yeah, it's equally possible for us to create relationships even from this point. So if we want to create relationship from our data, within our data, then what we need to do is we'll go to data, and then under our data, we'll have data tools, and then you have relationships there. You see, you have relationship, and then you have a data model. So let's click on relationships, and then within relationships, we have to create a new relationship. So this is new, And then when you click on new relationship, it's now going to ask you how you want to create the relationship. So what are the tables you want to use? So pick the table and columns you want to use for this relationship. So I'm picking the first table, and then let's say I want to select my locations, and then the column I want to use from there, I want to use region. Then I want to select the next one, which is my sales data. That is the transactional data. So for you to create a relationship, please, you will always have to select one-dimensional data and link it to the transactional data. Each time you want to create a relationship, you are trying to link the transactional data, the dimensional data or tables to your transactional tables. Remember, you have multiple dimensional tables and you just have one single transactional table. So in creating relationship, you are trying to create a relationship, a link between the different dimensional tables you have to the one single transactional data you have. All right. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So I'm saying select the table called locations, and then I'm interested on the column called region. Then select the next one, the worksheet, the table called sales data, and I'm equally interested on the column called regions. And then when you select it and then you say, okay, it will create a relationship for us. All right, so I'm waiting for it to do that. All right, so that has been done. Now, when that's done, if you look at it, it said it is active. It is active. Now, I can equally say create another one. I want to create another one. And then at this point, let's say I want to create for orders. And then under the orders, I want to use the order ID and then come to my sales table again and then select as I want to use again the order ID and I say create. So please do note we are using what exists in both tables, all right? But in this case, I want you to use something that is unique in the dimensional table and linking to the transactional table. So if you watch what I'm doing, I've already said on my dimensional table under the regions, I want to make the regions unique. So the regions have not repeated. There's no repetition on that column called regions. So that's why I'm using it to link the dimensional table to the transactional table. Now, after that, I can still create another one. Let me quickly create another, the remaining, and then products. So under products, I want to select the product name, and then I want to link it to this. Someone could ask me, why am I not using the product ID? I'm not using the product ID because I have not added the product ID to my table, my transactional table. If I add that product ID to my transactional table, then I can use it to link both of them. But at this moment, I have not added them, so I can't use it to link it. If I try to using it, it's not going to work for me because it is not yet part of that. It's not yet part of the transactional table. And then, like I said before, if you remember, you said that what we'll have here, I have product name under my product table. But when I come to my transactional table, I don't have product name. I think what I have there is called order priority. Is it order priority? No, item type. It's item type. So let's see if it's going to create it because there are different names. And let's see. Okay, it's created. We're going to see if it actually did. Now let's create the last one, and then that will be locations. I think I've done for locations. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think I've done for them. All right, great. So now I've done this. So now if I want to, the next thing I could say is, let's see if I can edit things I've done. So I can edit. If I think I've done the wrong thing, I can edit them. And then when I come to edit, you can now realize that the first table is sales data, item type. Second table is products, and then the name is product name. So because the content, the value there are unique, that's why it's able to link them together. All right. So that is for this. So when I finish what the relationship I need to create, I can close my tab. So that is how we create relationships here. In Power BI, it is easier for us to do it. And when we do finish doing it, we can equally view it. I think there should be a way of viewing it here too. I'm going to look around for it. And then when I get it out, I'm going to let you know. But let's continue because of our data and because of our time. All right. So now, yeah, is here. Now, the next thing I will do is, now that I've finished creating the relationship that need to exist between my data, the next thing I'll start doing is to start creating where I need to use for my dashboard, and then where I need to use for my analysis. Yeah, so on our analysis, you still remember we did the last time when there was a time we did power pivot tables. We did pivot tables. So we'll be using pivot tables today, and then we'll be using another place called for creating of our dashboards. So for us to do that, we're going to create 2 extra worksheets for that. So we'll create the first extra worksheets, and then we're going to call this analysis, or whatever thing you want to call it. Then when you do that, you create another one, and the second one we're going to create, we'll call this dashboards. Dashboards. So we've created this. Now on our dashboard, if you don't want these Excel lines, the grid lines that we'll have here, it's very easy for us to get rid of them. So what you do is you go to view tab. When you come to view tab, depending on what you want to remove. If I want to remove the grid lines, you see show group. Under show group, I have grid lines. If I uncheck that, say the grid lines are gone. Now, if I don't want the headings A, B, C, D, and then 1, 2, 3, I have headings. I get rid of that. So with that, I've gotten rid of that too. If I don't need this formula bar as well, if I don't want it, I can equally get rid of that. So maybe if I need something like this, in fact, if I want to collapse that ribbon, I can right click and say collapse the ribbon. So maybe if I want my dashboard to be like this, there's nothing wrong with it. So you can decide to format your dashboard to look clean, because it won't actually be nice that you're going to do, you are designing dashboard and then the Excel grid lines are still there. So you can do that. Now, when you finish this, if you feel like the color you have here, the background color you have here is not what you need, you want to change it to something new, it's possible. You can actually select everything, Control A to select everything, and come to your home tab. And then under your home tab, you see where we'll have the font group. You see where we'll have a fill color. When you open the fill color, depending on the color you want to use, you can actually apply a new color to that place and then give it a different color. The choice is all yours. So however you want your dashboard to look like, to be like, you can always design it to look like what you want it to be. All right. So when you do this, that is one thing you have to do. If you want to add some shapes, maybe to make it unique, stand out, beautiful, what you can do as well is to come to this place called Inserts. And then under Inserts, you have illustrations. Depending on the kind of illustration you want to use, you can use it. So I can open these shapes. And when I open shapes, they have a whole, so many shapes I can use. I can choose any shape of my choice and then come here and draw my shape to fill my dashboard. So maybe I want to use this as my dashboard. So you design your dashboard, and then when you do this, remember, it's a shape. So with the shape, you can still work on it. You have, immediately you add a shape to your dashboard, you have a column, a tab added to you called shape format. If you click on it, you can work on that shape. So let's say I don't want the outline. I don't want an outline on that. So I have shape styles. Under shape styles, I have shape outline. So I go to shape outline and I ensure it is on none, no outline. So I'm sure now I don't have outline on it. Now, if I want to change the color of the shape as well, this is shape fill. I come to shape fill, and then under shape fill, I can decide whichever color I want to use for it, and then it's going to accept that color. So depending on the color you want to use, you can always change to the color you prefer. Yeah, so that is for the shapes, and then that is how we can actually work with our shapes to get a color we need. So now when you are done designing it the way you want it to be, but please, while designing your dashboard, always take into account your color, your company or your organization's color. Yeah, it's very important. Don't just use any color because you are designing a dashboard. Remember, you are working for an organization, and then try to do things that will represent or project their image wherever you are going. So try to use a color that equally represents your organization in designing the background of your dashboards. It will be very important. Yeah, so when you're done with this, now the next thing you need to do is now to start designing your analysis. Now, within our analysis, just like I said, we will be working with the same pivot table we've worked with before. That's what we're going to be using. So I'll come back to my sales data, or sales underscore data 2. And then, of course, now from here, can equally format this data to look differently if you want to. For example, if I don't want this place to have this filter buttons tabs on each of these headings, if I don't want it again, it's possible I can do it. When I come to the place called, you see, this is a table, all right? So if I click within the table, I have table design and I have query. So if I go to table designs, and then I have an option there called header row under my table styles options. I have table row. So if I remove filter is there, filter button is there. So when I click on the filter button, you see the filter buttons are all removed, but my table is still there. If I want to get rid of the heads, then this is header row. So that is header row. And then you see now I don't have the heading again, but I think I need the heading, so I have to leave it. Good. Now, another thing, if I want to remove the bounded rows, you see the rows are bounded. This is bounded rows. I can remove it as well. So anything you feel like you want to do with your data, and then however you want to make it look nice to you, you can always do them here. It is free for you to do, and then you can always do it and feel good. So maybe if I think this is good for me, if it's not good, I can always work on it. Now, the next thing I'll do is to now start producing my different analysis. So remember, to start that, we have to go to our insert tab. When you come to insert tab, then you have your pivots table, all right? Please remember, don't use the recommended pivot tables, please. Let's create our own pivot tables. So you click on the pivot tables, and then you have these options. Range or from table, that means you're making reference to this table you already have. So want to create a range from it, or want to create the table, our pivot table from this range. So that's what we're going to use. So we'll use from that. And then when we click on that, it gives us this option where it is asking us to specify if exactly what we've selected is the right thing. Now, if you look at the data selection, it will start from where your data actually started, not the column heads. It will exclude the column heads and start from the main data. That's how it goes. So, and then the next thing is asking us is new worksheet. That is, choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. And then the first option is new worksheet. And then new worksheet means if I say new worksheet, then it's going to create another worksheet for us. But that is not exactly what I want. I have already created somewhere that I called analysis. So I want to use that place. So I say use existing worksheets. And then I click on that place I want it to be. So I want it to be here. And then when I click there, I can click within any place, wherever I want it to start. If I want it to start from column A, row 5, I click there. Wherever I want it to start, I just click. And then when I click, I say, okay, then it will create my pivot table for me. So now we are now to start our analysis. Now, when it does this, if you note, you are going to see that here we now have all our columns present. All right, all the columns we have are here for us to work with. And since our columns are all here, the only thing we need to do is to know what we want to see, what we want to see, tell our what we want management to see or to know from our analysis. Maybe if we're interested, we are looking at the products we are selling. If that is our interest, then we should be interested on the products. If it is our customers, maybe our sellers, those who sells items for us, maybe if they are the people we are interested on, then we should be interested on that. If we're interested on the regions, whatever thing we're interested on, we should not be thinking of how to drill down on them. But I think from this perspective, we should be interested on the items we are selling. So let's say here we are interested on the item types. All right, so that is our major interest, because everything we are doing here is revolving around the item type. So everything we're going to be talking about is how is the item performing? What is it? What is happening to the item? Yeah. So to start that, let's say we drop the item. If we drop the item in the values, and just drop it in the values, and then please, can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So when I drop my item inside the values, when I look at my table, my pivot table, it says count of item, and then it's counting the items, and it's counted this 10,004. So that is for count. I can actually change it to another thing. If I don't want to count, I can right click on it, not right click, just click. When you click on that arrow, then it gives you options of what you can do. Maybe you can move in a case where I have 2 or 3 things there, and I can decide which one comes first and which one goes behind. So I can move up and down. Then I can move to a report filter. If I want to add this to report filter, I can do that. Then I can move to column levels, that is move it to column levels. I can move it to rows if I want to move it to rows. Then I can remove it if I want to remove it, but we can do further things. So if you say value field settings, when you click on value field settings, then you can decide on other things to do. For example, I can decide to sum. Maybe I want to sum the things there if it is possible, or I want to get the average if it is possible. I want to get the maximum if it is possible, or the minimum if it is possible. Remember, I'm saying if it is possible, because if it is text, then you can't sum them. All right, you can't sum text. But if it is numbers, figures, then you can sum, you can get average. All right. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. If it is possible, you can get average, minimum, maximum products. It is possible. But if it is text, then you are only limited to count. You can only count them. Great. Now, after that, you can equally decide other things. See, number formats. We have number formats here. And within number formats, you can decide, assuming it is currency, but it's not displaying as currency, and you want it to display as currency, you can come here and format it as currency. If it is dates, any other data type you want it to be like, you can still convert it to another data type if you think it is not in the right data type. So we can still do them here. So if you want to be number and then have some decimal places, you can still come here and decide what to do with it. If you want it percentage, you can still come here and get the percentage of what you want. So please do note you have these options, and then you can always come around and work on them. Okay, so now let's still leave it with counts and then go back. Now my count is here, but what do I want to count? What exactly am I counting? Okay, so let's say we want to count these products based on regions. Maybe based on regions. Let's look at what happens. Regions. So I drag my regions, and then depending on how I want it to display, if I want it to display on rows, then I drop it on rows. If I want it to display on column base, I drop. So you see, I've dropped it on rows now. When I drop it on column, this is how it's going to display. So it depends on how I want to present my data. If you think this is the way you want to present your data, then that is how you have to drop it. So you drop it where you want it to be. But I think row will be better for us. So I'm dropping it again in rows. And so with rows now is counting each item for us per region. Each item per region, each item per region. So what I mean by each item per region is this. When you come to each region, let's go back to this data. So I'll show you something. When I come to, if I select Asia, it counts everything within Asia, both office supplies, beverages, vegetable, household, everything. It counts everything together. So it's not counting them independently. No, but it counts everything within that region. All right. So that is what is happening here. So you understand what is happening here. So it's counting everything like that. So it picks Asia, it counts everything, picks the other one, it counts everything in that order. And when it finishes, it's giving us a grand total of this. All right, great. So if I want to filter, if I want to add some filter to it by default, it is possible. Maybe I can do that. Maybe I want to add some filter based on sales channel. Maybe I can add filter based on sales channel. And then maybe I can say, okay, I want to see the offlines, and then say, okay. So multiple, and then say, okay. So you see, it's going to be changing. The value will be changing as I select whatever thing I think I need to select. The value will always change. Okay, but we'll be doing that later anyway. So no need as adding any it here now. So I'm removing it. Now to remove anything from that place, you have two options. Either you drag it from that place out of it, or you just come back to the columns and uncheck the checked box. You see the box are checked. So if you uncheck it, then it will remove it from where it is currently staying. Yeah, so this is how we create the first pivot table. And then when you create this pivot table, you have to create more. You're not going to create one, you have to create them depending on how many visualizations you want to present. So if I want to create another one, the only thing I need to do is to select this. I'll copy this, and then click maybe just one column apart. When I get one column apart, and then I paste it. So when I paste it, the next thing I'll do is to change what is inside. I don't need to go and then start from scratch again. Sometimes some people do that. So they want to create another pivot table. So they want to start from scratch again, go back, insert pivot table, create again, and all that. No, you don't need to do that. Just copy the one you've done, paste it a few steps out of what you've done, so you're able to demarcate them or differentiate them, then change the content inside them, and then that'll be okay. So let's say this point, I want to see the sales, how the product is being sold per region. So instead of having the count of items, I'm removing it, and I'm using sales. Yeah, total. Do I have? I can have profits. I have unit cost. I have revenue. I have okay. So let me use total profits. Let's see the total profit per each region. So this is the total profits per each region. All right. Remember, this total profit is for every item sold under that region. If I want to break it down, maybe for us to understand in a better way, maybe what I'll do is I'll pick the item type and add it to the rows again. Then in this case, it will break it down. Yeah, so in this case now you have food, and then this is the total sold under Asia. Then you have beverage, this is the total sold serial, this is it. So in this order, but the first is adding everything within this, and it's giving us the first one. So it depends on what you want to do, please. Okay, all right, so that is how this works. Great. Now I'm removing this again because I don't want it to be there. So this is the total sales or total profits per each region. What if I want to get the average? I want to get the average. I want to have the total sale as well as the average of each in each region. So what I'll need to do again is to add the same profits. Maybe let me add a profit again. Maybe if I think I'm going to use that. Then instead of saying sum, I'll now come here and change it to average. I'll change it to average. And then I say, okay. Yeah, no, so now I have average. Now, if you see my average, you see that my decimal places are too many. So I can decide to reduce it just to 2 decimal places. And then to do that, still under my average, I go to formats, number formats. Now I come to numbers and then I maintain 2. Yeah, 2 is okay for me. And I say, okay. So in this case, it's going to convert this to 2 decimal place. So if I think here again, we have the same effect, or if may have the same thing, I'll equally go there and ensure that I've done the same. Good. Now, that is how this works. So now I have my total sales. So remember, this is row levels. So the row levels is not telling us exactly what we have there. So what do? We can double click on it and then change it to maybe regions, so that we know that this is for regions. And then this is total sum of profits. And then this is average sum of profits. Remember, I can equally average of total profits. Okay, good. So that is for this. So I've created 2 now. Now, as you create, sometimes it is advisable you create a visualization for it so that you see what you're actually doing. So for example, if I want to create my visualization for this, what I'll do is I'll select my data. Now, before that, let me say I want to remove this grand total because I don't need the grand total for it. So if I want to remove the grand total, I right click on that grand total and then I say remove grand total. So it removes it for me. So I just want to sum and see the sum of each of them. Yeah, so select this. Now I come back to my inserts. Remember the time we did charts, I told you we'll still be using charts again later on. And then I showed you how to do basic charts then, and then we're able to create one, I think either 1 or 2 of them, but maybe today we'll be creating a couple of them. So now you highlight this and then you ask, that is where you now begin to ask yourself, what is the right chart for me to use to explain what I have in my data type? My data is telling me this. How do I compare them? What kind of comparison do I want to give out? So for example, what I have here now, since they are less than 10, maybe I think 2-dimensional will do for me. So I have this created for me. This is my first visualization I have gotten. And then it's telling me this is Asia, Australia, Central America, and all that, and all that, and all that, telling me this. But I'm not really understanding perhaps what it's telling me. What is it? What are the values for? Maybe I need to do few more things to be able to understand what it's telling. So now I can remove this because I don't want it to be part of my data when I pick it up. So if I come, remember these are different regions. I still have access to the regions here. So if I don't want all the regions, I want maybe just one region to show. This is just one region. You say that. So, but actually it doesn't make sense now for me to show just one region, except when we have some other things. All right. So now I say, okay, so I need it this way because I'm summing the whole products. So I want to remove this. Now for you to remove this region, because it's for when you bring it to your dashboard, it will actually look nice. having it there. So I have to remove it so that people will not be clicking on it and then be selecting. I want to make it interactive. So I'll say hide all field buttons on charts. So you see, it has hidden it. All field buttons has been really hidden. Now, if depending on what I want to do, now remember, I have this, my elements here. And then with this, I can still work on my data. Remember, I have my axis. I don't understand what is axis. I click on it. It's already checked. So I uncheck it. And then I now have a better understanding of what axis is. If I need it, then I'll leave it. Now I have chart title. I don't know what chart title is. So I check it. And then when I check it, I see that it is the total. All right. So, but the total, is it total of what? I don't understand. So you have to write a title that explains what that chart is all about. Please, when you're adding your chart titles, always try to ensure that it explains what the chart is all about. Good. Now I have other ones, labels. Remember, under your labels, you can actually add the actual values, the real values of the data on each bin. So if I want to add that, then I have to check this. Once I check it, you see that my data has been added to them. Good. I have legends. Legends is this total where I have total with a button. If I don't want it, I can uncheck it and then it's going to get rid of that. Great. Then I have the grid lines. Of course, if you look closely, if you have created one chart yourself, you're going to realize that we'll have grid lines. If I don't want that grid lines, I can equally remove the grid lines. So if I want it like this, it is okay. That's fine. Then the next thing is I have this, the next one, the stars and then the colors. Depending on if I feel the color I have is not the best for me, I want to change it to something different, I can do that depending on what I want to do. So please do remember that you have the whole time and then you have the whole charts available for you. You can always use them to experiment until you get what you feel is comfortable or good for you to use. Once you get what you feel you're okay using, then you can go ahead and use it. Yeah, so that is for that. So if you have any question, please do remember to let me know on the comment section so that I will be able to address it. Now, after you've done this, maybe there's another thing you feel like you should do. Maybe the colors. Is there any other way we can work on this? Yes, there's other ways we can work on it. If I right click on this, if I right click on the charts itself, I can right click on the chart and then I have different things I can do as well. I have deletes if I want to delete, resets, fonts, color, change the chart type. If I want to change the chart type, select data, add major guidelines, grid lines, minor, format axis. So there are so many things I can do. Let's see format axis. When you pick format axis, what are the things you can do? There are things you can do as well, and there are things you can't do. All right, so let's start from the first place. And then the first place we want to start from is, please let me see, seems there are people waiting on it for me to add. Okay, don't think. All right, so let's start from the first format axis, and then I have the first one. The first under axis options, that is where I have the stars and the colors. So that is the first one. And then from there, I have fill colors. The fill colors are for the individual. So I have from here, I have fill, I have no fill, I have solid fill, gradient, depending on what I want to use, and I have automatic. So I have colors here. So these are the colors I can use if I want to change the color of the fill I have there. Of course, by default is white now. So if I want to remove it, I can always do that. So I can say no fill if I want that. Of course, probably may not see the effects here, but maybe when we take it to the dashboard, you're going to see its effects there. Maybe I go to the line 2, I say I don't want any line. I don't want any extra line on it. So maybe then come to my labels. So I have axis options, text axis. So then I have vertical axis, I have axis positions, I have tick marks, I have labels, and I have numbers. So there are so many things we can do. It depends on what we have intention doing. All right, so here I have labels and I have intervals between the labels. So if you want automatic, of course, it is by default automatic. So that means it measures the labels we have and then gives them some specific space in between them. All right, but if you have some values in mind, then you can use specific intervals and then probably you can specify them here. Let me say, maybe I want to say 20, and then we're going to see how it's going to look like. All right. Then after that, I have label positions. So these are level positions. I have next to axis, I have high, I have low, I have none. So depending on how you want it to be, you can always do that. But I think the automatic is better for us. Great. Then after that, when you finish what you feel like you want to do here, then you can close this. And then what you do is you cut this. You cut it. And then you come to your dashboard. When you come to your dashboard, another thing, you can decide if you don't want to use it this way, you can still add more shapes to hold each of the charts you'll be bringing into your, or the visuals you'll be bringing into your dashboard. You can add more visuals to hold them. So if I want to put it here, I can equally always do that. So let me say I want this to be this. Of course, so I want it to be inside, sorry. So this should be inside it, but it's too much. So I have to reduce this. Reduce it. All right. Okay. Then I can leave it inside this place. Our texts are not showing, we can't actually appreciate our text so much. So I want to look at my text and see where it is and change the color so that the color, maybe the color should be white or something better off than what we have here. So let me look at the fonts. The font is here. And so I just right click on the charts and then it gave me the option to change the font. So the font here is black. If you see the text here, they are black. So let me see if I'll change it to white. And then let me say, okay. So now currently it's white, but the white is not what it should be because it has rather spot the rest of them. Yeah, so let's say I'm going to choose something different. Maybe something not too white. And not too black either. Still not good. Still not good again. All right. So this. It's too shouting. Okay, maybe something close to this, and probably I have to remove this from where it is. Data levels. All right. So maybe I have to remove my data levels, or better still, add them in a different location. Maybe different locations. And then go back and then change my fonts. I think my color is here. Change my font again. Okay, so maybe not too bad, not too good, but not too visible. Then I can make it bold, of course. There's a regular here, can make it bold. Can increase the font size if I want to increase the font size. And then say, okay. All right, so I can do that. Then close this, and then I can now increase this small. Yeah, so maybe this, then maybe my total, which I'm yet to explain what it is. I can bring it up a bit. So you start working with your visuals. And then now, if I don't want, I was telling you it is equally possible, maybe we may not want our visuals to have some background. It's possible. So we'll right click on this and then go to some major levels. Should be levels. So from this is fill colors. So if I say no fill, I think you should be able to get rid of that. Okay. No fill color. No line color too. So that is okay. No fill color. Good. So then but when I say no fill color, I see that my beams itself has been removed because I equally removed the other side. So I'm going to bring this back and then go back and correct it. So no fill color. So I want to check for my beans color first. These are my beans colors. I think it should be here. It's faster to be done in Power Query, in Power BI than in Excel. Power Query has actually made most of these things very easier for us to work with. And these are the widths. See this? That's for the borders. Okay, I don't want border color. Already said I don't want border color. Great. So please, this is for the border colors. And then I already said I don't want border colors. So that is why I removed it. And this is for the fill color. So fill color, that is blue. All right, I want it white. All right, so I think it's better off, but I would have rather preferred this, but I'll work on that. And then I'll show you probably before we finish this, once I'll design another one. So now when I come to this, I equally select two of them. And then remember, we'll have to remove our grand total. So remove our grand total. And when we get rid of our grand total, we are left with our data itself. And with our data itself now, we'll have our regions, our total profits per region, and then we'll have our average profits per region. We can use two of them, the three data to form another chart. It's possible if we select the three of them, and then we still create another visual. And then maybe let's still use similar visual like what we did. And then we should be able to see the different visuals with them. All right. Because of the size of the data between them, the gap is so much. That is why it is difficult for us to see the average. But if I remove the total profits from this, you see that we have the average. The average are actually there, but because of their size, the data we have inside them is small in comparison with the total we have from each region. So that is why it is very small for us to visualize them. So maybe what we can do is to have different charts for the two. So have one chart for the average and then have one chart for the region, for the sum, or we can even leave that and then rather use a calculation to get the total the other side. So what we can do here, of course, is to change this to total average per region. So we can change this to total average, total average per region. And then we can remove these ones because we don't need them. Then so this is the average per regions. We can change our type again. Maybe we can add a label and see how it's going to be, but the label, okay, let's add a pointing label. Okay, maybe something like this. And then maybe this, I can take this one, I can take this alongside, and then instead of bringing it there, we can change it this way. So I rather want it to be on my axis. So let me bring another text box and use it to create it so that I can be able to rotate it. I want to be able to rotate what I have there. Good. So I want to have total average. Okay, average, total average per region. Then with this, I can rotate this. And then maybe I can increase this small. I can decide where to add it. You can add it wherever you feel like you need to add it. And then it tells you better of what you are doing. I want to remove what I have there. The lenses, I want to remove it so that I'll be able to position this. All right, then of course, when you finish what you want to do, depending on, okay, I really want us to work on this. Okay, the texts are here. There's a few outline. The texts, I want us to change the text color to something different. I'm going to fonts. Now, depending on where you are, if you are inside, remember when you add a chart, you have two text boxes. The first text box holds the chart beans itself, and then the other bigger text box holds the whole thing together. So it depends on where you are. When you right click, the options will be different. For example, if I go inside the innermost charts and then I right click, I have delete, set match. These are the options I have there. All right. But if I come to outside and then I right click, I can have font. I'm looking for fonts. So that's what I want to change. And then the color I want to, let me say I want to use white here. And then say, okay. Remember, I can equally make it bold if I feel like doing that. Then I say, okay. Now it will be visible because of where you are. So I'm cutting it from here and I'm going to the dashboard. When I come to the dashboard, I'll paste it here. I think I removed the wrong thing. So axis is there. Okay, so I'll add a title axis there. Then I want to add my labels. Yeah, so my labels are there. I want to add, I don't need this. Okay, because the text is white, I barely can see this. Okay, let me remove the background from this. So in a case where I want to remove the background from my charts, is equally possible. I can remove, this is where I can change the background if I want, but I don't want to use that. I want to use this. I'm using this one. So if I want to use this one, the only thing I need to do is when I right click on my charts, I click on format axis. Format axis. If I right click on my charts, I click on format axis or format plot area, whichever one that is available, I can use it to work on it. So now the fill color, let's see if I say I don't need any fill color. And this is the borders. And then this is a solid edge. No, not this. This is outline, this is fill. Text, verticals. This is for the beans. These are the beans. You can see the beans drawn here. So the actions or the axis options that are here. Text axis, data, date axis. These are for those ones. And then we are looking for, okay, let's check on the levels. No. Okay, let me add my color here. Now it's going to add this. I want to remove this. Okay. All right. Yeah, test options. Solid. Then test box. All right, so here we have two options here. If you look at my chat area, I have chat options and text options. Under the chat options, I'm supposed to be able to use the chat options to work on the charts itself. And under the text options, I'm supposed to use the text options to be able to work on the text itself. So if I say, for example, the text fields, if I say no text field, you say that the colors are off from the text field. All right. And then if I want to change the text field to, I can equally change the colors to any other color I feel like using here. So it is possible. So I can use black. Let me see black. All right. And then maybe I want to remove that guy. Then say I want this. Then I come to my chart options. My chart options, I didn't actually want a color there. Yeah. So I don't want a color on my charts options. So, and then if I don't want color there, maybe I can remove these ones to border. So under the text options, I already have black. Then solid text outline. I don't need that. So I think here we need to take some time and look at exactly what we need to do. And then whilst we work with it, it's not something you don't get everything once, but we'll keep working on it and then keep seeing the options of what we need to use. I'm trying to remove this background color I just added now. And then it's not coming by. It's not this, okay. That's what shade. I don't need a shade. Properties. Size, height, width. Okay, let's see the width. So I think from here to when you bring in your charts area, I think I should have explained it. So we'll have 3 different things when you click on format charts, and then under your format chart, you have the first 2 options you have is chart options and text options. And then when you select chart options, you have 3 different things you can do. You have text, fill and line for the chart options, fill and line. Then after that, you have effects, the effects you want them to have. If you want effects, you have effects. Then after that, you have size and property. So when it comes to size and property, that's where you have the heights. If you want to increase the height or reduce the height of your charts, you can actually do them from heights. And then from width, you can equally work on the width. Depending on the width you have in mind, you want to use, you can work on the width. So this is for the width. You can work on the width. You can increase it, you can reduce it. You can equally rotate your charts if you feel like rotating, but there's no need rotating. This is not cycle. So if it's pi, then we can rotate it. Then you have scale height. Maybe if I want to change the scale height, I can still change it. For example, see that my data was too clumsy. It was difficult for us to read. So it means I needed to reduce the chart height so that it will be able to separate it a bit in a way that I'll be able to read it, or another person that is interested can read it. So that is the scale height. And then the scale width is already 100%, but if I want to increase it again, I can equally increase the scale width. So we use all these things to work on the chart and ensure that we get what we need to show. All right. So remember, I already wanted to add something here, but I'm going to remove it so that I'll use the, what I have as my x-axis, my axis title, to rather replace what I wanted to type. So I only copy what I have here and then use it to replace what I wanted to do there. So that's what I would do. So replace this. So depending on how I want it to be, of course, when I do it, I can always change the color. This is text. So remember, from here, we have fill, we have text. So when I'm working with text, I have to go to text. This is title option. So this is text options. I have to come to text and change the color of my text. But when I'm changing the color of my text, I should know that it's going to affect the whole content when I change the color of my text. All right. So it's already working on this because I already selected this. So if I've selected the whole thing and then I'm changing it, then it's going to affect. And then if I want to select the whole thing, is I click on the utmost text box that contains everything. That is how I'll select everything if I want to change. But if I want to work on them independently or individually, then I have to click on them at a time. So for example, if I click at the moment, I already have this as one I've changed the color. Let me see, change it again to pure brighter whites, and then you see. See, this one is only one that is white now. The rest of them are all black. But if I want to make all of them to have the same color, then when I click on this line, that is going to help me select everything. And I come back to this place. When I select white, then everyone will be affected. So it depends, or depending on what I want to do or what I want to change, then it will determine where I want to select. So if I want to select just one, then I need to narrow down to where I need to select. For example, this place here, where I have Asia, Australia, and then the rest of them. If that is where I have in mind to work on, I'll have to deselect the rest, then come and select it. Try and see if I will be able to select it. I'm really too sure if I'll be able to select it because it's part of the bigger text. All right, so let me see. Everything is selected though. If it's Power BI, it will be easier to select. It's simpler to select in Power BI. So select this. Okay, I can only select the text and then the labels because they're independent. And for this one, I have to select everything. I have to select everything. Remove this. Too bad. No fill color. All right. So now I wanted to remove that color I added initially. And to do that, what I did is I right-clicked. And when I right-click, I have fill color, I have outline color. I know it was the fill color. So when I click on the fill color, it gave me the options. So I have one of the options here said no fill. So I just said no fill. And then, so if I say click on any color here, it's going to change it to that color. But if I don't want that color, then I can say no fill, and it's going to remove the color. And then the line on the edge, if I don't want that line to, I can go to outline. This is outline. When I come to outline, I say no outline. That means that line will be off. So there's no line there at the moment. All right. So this is how what I do. And then I select this again. When I finish what I want to do, paste it on my dashboard. Now, how do we link them together? How do we connect them? Because as we keep working, you see that they're all different tables. But if we want to link them together, linking them is very easy. So what we do when we want to link together is we'll come to a place where we'll call pivots data analysis. And then when you come to pivot data table analysis, you have an option called filter, and you have slicer there. So when you click on slicer, it will bring this table for you. And with this, you can select what you want to slice your data with. So I want to be able to, I want to see countries. If I want to see slice them based on countries, then I'll check based on countries. If I want to slice them based on sales channel, I can say I want to see based on sales channel. If I want to slice this based on durations, I can select it. If I want to slice it based on anything I feel like I want to slice it based on, I'll only select this. So let me select item 2 and then say, okay. So when I say, okay, they will all be added for me here. Remember, some of them, I have not done some of them. I have just done 2, but I want to show you how we can be able to link them together so that whilst you are working and you are creating more of them, you can actually link them together. So let's see what happens here. If I click on food or item type, I click on baby food, so that the rest of them are not responding. They are all static. So if I click on beverage, okay, country is responding. So you watch the country, you see that it's responding, all right? And then, yeah, the country is responding. Good. Now, if I click on, let me close this. To close it, you see there's a filter icon on top of it. You just clear that filter button. When you select one, it is activated. It is marked red. So to clear it, you just clear it and then everything comes back. So if I say online, you see, I'm not seeing any effects. So what I need to do is to link all these filters together. So when I link all of them together, then it will be able to interact with each other whilst I go around. So what I do is I'll click on the first one, item type, and then come back to my slicer. You see, I have a slicer here, and then I click on report connections. So report connections, I just have this. So I only have two tables, table 1 and table 2. So I say, okay. So it means these two tables cannot communicate. When I click on anything here, they'll be able to communicate with each other. See, the values are all changing. Good. Now, the same thing is what I'll do on all the slicers I have added. So I have to make sure that all my slicers are all connected with all the tables I have. So connect them. Make sure this one too is equally connected. So I'm connecting all of them. So if I have multiple tables, that is what I'll do and ensure that all the tables are all connected so that wherever I am, if I say I want to see the online products offline, you see that they're all working together. Good. Now, so if I come back now, if I say, let me pick these ones to my dashboard and then see how they're going to interact with each other. So I'm picking this. And then I'm cutting it from here. And I come to my dashboard. So let me paste them here. Okay. So of course I have to arrange them the way they should be. It's not the best of it though. For now, it's for training purpose and to show us what we can do, the options that are available for us. All right. So if I say fruits, if we go to fruits, you see that our table, both the total sales and then the average sales are all going to adjust depending on what we've selected. All right, it's even on offline. So let me select both online. You see that the data will always change. So if I check, say I want to see meats, and then maybe I want to see the ones that are sold online, now uncheck offline. Please, the one you uncheck, the one that is not checked is the one that will be active. So at this moment, offline is active. So these are what we did offline. All right. So the two tables are responding to that. Now, if I want to look at them based on countries, maybe I can even say, all right, I want to see the data that was sold offline. I want to see meat sold offline and maybe Afghanistan, and let's see. So this is what I have from that data. All right. So if I want to change it and say, okay, I want to see maybe another country, maybe Ethiopia, and then this is the data I have. So everything you see within the duration I took for us to be able to get them will all be present for us to be able to see. All right. So we can go and say, okay, what if we want to see online? You see, initially it was 6, now it is 4. And then this is what we equally have. So depending, we are not restricted to a particular country. We can always, because they have all been linked together, we can use these charts or these filters to select, interact with all the charts we'll be bringing into our dashboard. Now, another thing, if I don't want to display my slicers in rows, I want to display them in columns. For example, this is just 2. I have offline and online. If I want to display it in columns, I come to slicer, and then under slicer, I have the buttons. I have columns, number of columns. I increase it to 2. When I increase it to 2, it's going to change that place to 2. See, now I have them this way. So if you want them to have, if you have very small data and then you think you can spread them in column wise, then this is how you can do it. You can use the columns to spread them. And of course, this will help you to work on the heights and then the width of either of them, depending on what you want to do. So of course, when I do this, then I can reduce this so that it fits a bit this way. And then I can drop it wherever I want it to be. Okay, so this is how we'll start with our dashboard designs. But just do know that the only thing you need to do is when you come here, select your data. When you select the data, copy it, then paste it in an environment. When you paste it, then you place, if you have this, you remove it. Then you come back here and fill it with data you want. Now, if I want to view the data based on dates, is equally possible because I have dates. So what I need to do on that is to add what is called timeline. So within the same place where we added insert slices, we have what is called timeline. So you click on insert timeline. When I click on insert timeline, then it brings me the dates I have. So if I want to view it based on order dates or ship dates, then I can do it. If I want to use both too, I can equally do. Maybe I want to, sometimes if that's what I want, I can do that. Select both and then say, okay. Then both will be added for me here. So I have both the order dates and then the ship dates. So then if I didn't mean I have them in years, they'll be here. If I have them in months, if I have them in days, they will equally be available for me to use. So I can select two of them. And then still take it equally to my dashboard. And then from my dashboard to, I've not linked them together. Well, let's see. Yeah, I'll need to link them. All right, so I need to link them together so that they'll be able to interact with the two tables I have. So to link them, say the same thing, you go to timeline and then you have report connection. Then you link them together. I think I just added another table, even I've not added value to them. Then add this again. And then connections. All right, so now if I'm working on this, you see, they should be able to interact with each other. Good, I think I have some, okay, filters here already. So clear all my filters. And then let me interact with the order dates. So July, this is the orders that we have placed per each of the items. So you see, August, there was nothing done. Nothing was done in August, and that's why I'll have empty everywhere. And then September, October, November. No, this should not be correct. Okay, maybe there's some filter again somewhere. All right, so let me see. Ship dates, August. Yeah, there was ships, August, September, there was some ships, October, there was some, okay, nothing. November, December, okay, nothing happened. All right, so January, sure. All right, so now we'll have years and then we'll have equally months. We can equally decide to split them depending on years or months, but that will be done when we are creating a pivot table. So maybe we'll do that lastly and then we'll be done for the day because we have exceeded our time. So let's see, if I want to create a pivot table that will help me filter the dates. Maybe I want to see the years. Of course, even when we are creating our table, we could have done it here. So instead of having everything together, we could have created a column for days, column for months, a column for years. You see, we did it the last time, we could have equally done it here. So, but if we didn't do it, I want to do it in our dashboard, it's equally possible. We can try and see if we can do it. All right, so to do that, let's see, copy this. And then here, I want to add my order dates. And then I want to remove my regions. Now, when I add my other dates, you now see that I have option of years, quarter, months, and day. So depending on how I want to view it. So if I want to view it based on years, I can remove the rest of them, remove this field, remove the field for months, remove the field for years. So I only have the years. Now, let's say I want to see the total revenue we made per each year. So I want to remove this. I want to remove this and then see total revenue. So this is total revenue for 2015. I think it should actually be more than 2015. Should have 2010. Because we have 2010 to 2017, or even greater than 2017. So less than 2010 and then have 2017. Oh. Ship dates. So go to settings. Load items and manual filter. Okay, let me remove this. Because I want to remove this and then do it again. Of course, if you have done something, I want to delete it, you can always highlight it and then use your delete key on your keyboard to delete the things you don't want to be parts of it again. Yeah. All right, so I'm selecting this, copy this, and paste it. And then here, I want to remove my this. I want to use my order dates. And then with my order dates, I want to see the total revenue, the sum of total revenues. Okay. All right, I think I've added this somewhere. Okay, this is why. All right, so I have my months here. Good. So what was actually happening is because I initially added a slicer called ship dates and order dates, and I've used the filter on my dashboard without clearing it. So when I came here and I was adding the dates, ship dates, it was restricted because I already have a filter, and my filter was only filtering 2015. So that was why I was not able to add those years. So the years was not active. So, but if I do it again, I'm sure that everything's going to come back. So my order dates, and then I want, so currently, if you can see, you see that I have 2010, 2011, 2012, 13, 14 to 2017. So, and then within each year, if I open the plus sign, I'll see the quarters inside it. And then of course, the breakdown of the total revenue per quarter. And if I open each quarter, I'll see the different months. So depending on what I want to do, if I have interest in viewing it just on yearly basis, then I'll remove from my row column, I'll remove the quarter, remove the months, and remove the day. Then in this case, I'll be viewing my data based on the year. So if I want to view it based on months as well, I can equally leave it only to months, and it's going to be calculated. I can actually view it like that. All right. So that is how we'll start with this. And of course, with this, we can equally create, of course, this is a total revenue. We can equally format this to give us maybe some decimal place. We can equally say, okay, let's even format it as currency and then see how it's going to be. Yeah, so format it as currency is going to work. And then we'll select our currency, what we formatted, and then create some visualizations with it. So I want to use the pie chart to create the visualization, and this is what I have. Of course, with this, we can still work on it. So we can go there, and then this is where we use again to try to customize it to suit what we want. Depending on the kind of visualization we want to see, we can actually include it either inside or outside, depending on what we want to do. It's possible. So remember again that from here, you can equally go to your where you can format your axis. You can format your charts. And then when you come here again, you have your chart options and your text options. And with your chart options, you have your fill color, you have your effects, and then you have the sizes. And then with the text, you have the option of working with it. Depending on the text you are interested on, these are the text fill and outline. And then these are text shadows or text effects. And then the other one is the text box. So the text boxes we have, if you have text box, we can equally work on the text boxes. And then, for example, if I want to add a text box, you can add a text box at the center, middle, wherever you want it to be, you can add it. If you add it, then text box will be added to this. So that is briefly what we can do with our dashboard, but it spans more than what we've done so far. And then there are so many things again we can learn. So if you finish, of course, like the other ones, you cut it again and you equally bring it to your dashboard. And then, of course, you have to customize both things so that they'll be able to enter or suit each other. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll customize it. And then just like the rest of them, we'll have to remove these chatbots. And then we'll have something like, remember the text color again, we can equally change the text colors to suit what we want it to be. And then to work on the text color, go to text options, come to text color. This is the text color, can change it to white, and then it will all be changed to white. So it depends on what you want to do. You can always work on your charts. And then, of course, what I'm going to do is, because of our time, I'll send you slides, then I will send you some links that are going to help you on when it comes to building visual data board, dashboards, and then visualizations, materials that will help you to be able to understand them more and better, and then design something for yourself as well. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll be waiting for your questions if we have some questions before we call it a day here.
Thank you, Jude.
I do have a question, but it's not really related to technicality. It's in terms of presenting this dashboard. Do we also use Excel while presenting this dashboard, or we take these charts that we've just created into PowerPoint or whatever platform used for presentation?
Yeah, you can, if you feel like you don't want to use Excel for presentation, normally you should use PowerPoint for presentation. But sometimes you may, if you pull your data and then you take it to PowerPoint and then the interactivity is not there, then it may be some instances where you need to make some reference with Excel, because that's probably where your data is seated. And then that is where you see what is helping the whole thing to be able to interact with each other is the pivot tables we've created here. That is what is helping them to interact. So when you pick the individual charts we've developed and then you keep them in PowerPoint, you use it to explain, yes, do your explanations, but when it comes to demonstrating to see how the whole thing interacts, it will still be important to use Excel to do it, because that is where the interaction within the whole thing will still take effect.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Is another question, please? All right. If there's no question again, we'll call it a day here. I'll be uploading materials for us on Connect, and then do have a nice week ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your day.